Welcome to the Business Credit and Financing Show. Each week, we talk about the growth strategies that matter most to entrepreneurs. Listen in as we discuss the secrets to getting credit and money to start and grow your business. And enjoy as we talk with seasoned business owners, coaches, and industry leaders on a variety of topics from advertising and marketing to the nuts and bolts of running a highly successful business. And now, to introduce the host of our show, financial expert and award-winning author, Ty Crandall.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. I'm really glad everybody could join us. So today with us is a really cool guest where we're going to be diving into a topic that I know affects all business owners, because anybody out there that runs a business should be doing what we're going to be talking about today, which is digital marketing. And we're going to be diving into a lot of cool topics that I know everybody's going to enjoy, from Facebook to Google to creating virtual teams and what you should have on your website and all kinds of great information. So with us today is a really cool guest, Joe Koshurba. Now, Joe grew the freelance web design business that he started in high school into a digital agency with virtual teams and clients around the world. He went from building $300 websites to building $30,000 websites and managing six-figure digital advertising budgets for some of the largest manufacturing and construction companies that are out there today. Now, Joe now advises and mentors other freelance web designers and digital agencies owners on how to develop and scale their business. So he's teaching the people that you're typically hiring to help you in your business. Now, Joe has been interviewed for numerous podcasts and talk radio shows, including the Conscious Millionaire podcast and the School for Startups radio show, which is broadcast around the country on AM and FM radio. Joe graduated summa cum laude from University of Pittsburgh with a degree in information science and a minor in computer science. So, Joe, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man, you must be, so you a Philadelphia fan? You're pretty happy right now?
I am actually. You know, I'm in Pittsburgh, but I root for the Philadelphia, absolutely, and so that's great to see, especially after I remember being in high school when they had a long streak of sort of failed attempts to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm excited for you guys up there. So, how long have you been an entrepreneur for?
Probably going on 15 years, I think, because it was, I was in high school when I got started, and probably I sort of had an entrepreneurial mindset even longer than that. I remember being even a little kid and talking about wanting to start businesses.
That's cool. That's awesome. And then you got into digital marketing, and it sounds like now you're kind of the coach of coaches, right? Because you're teaching other agencies that have a bunch of clients under them how to do a lot of things in the digital marketing world.
Exactly. I'm working with everybody from, somebody who has a freelance business to somebody who has a small agency, really helping them increase their prices, get more clients, but also serve their clients better and have, be able to deliver services that, actually help clients get what they want.
That's great. That's fantastic. Well, from what you're seeing in your perspective right now, what's hot? What's kind of going on in the digital marketing world?
Well, I think sort of two things are going on. On the web design side, there's all these website builders that are coming up, like Squarespace and Wix, where somebody can go and just build the website themselves. And that's scaring a lot of web designers because they think, everybody's going to just want to build a website themselves. But what I'm seeing is that although there are people building websites themselves, there's more and more businesses that they're sort of getting more sophisticated, or they're ready to get more sophisticated, and they finally, maybe 5 years ago they just wanted to get a website to check it off the list and have one. Now they're finally ready to actually start doing digital marketing, start using the internet to actually bring in leads and bring in clients. And so I think the biggest thing I see is that there's just all these businesses that are sort of have been on the sidelines for a long time, and they're ready to actually get into the game. And I think some people don't realize that there's still lots and lots of businesses that are just getting into the game when it comes to digital marketing and really having a high-quality website and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it's just because it's unavoidable now, right? I mean, it's something that's grown so big, and because you probably encompass what digital marketing, Facebook, social media. When you describe digital marketing, what kind of things do you think are included in that?
I include in that everything from Google AdWords, Facebook advertising, search engine optimization and writing content. Sort of, in my mind, anything that you're doing online to generate business is digital marketing. And actually related to that, I think one of the trends that I'm seeing sort of in advertising in general is that as time goes on, more and more things are becoming digital advertising.
Sure.
So, television commercials, for instance, would be something you might consider traditional advertising. But more and more, there's more and more platforms and opportunities to run television commercials programmatically and only to certain people, and it's becoming sort of a form of digital marketing. And I think you're going to see that too with billboards that are going to go electronic, and sort of everything's going to become digital as time goes on.
Yeah, and I agree. We're already seeing that. We're seeing a lot of billboards around here become digital. I have a buddy that works for Comcast, and it's crazy. I mean, they're able to now specifically target close to what Facebook is now on the cable and the streaming type platforms. Even radio, when you talk to somebody that works for these radio stations, the first thing they try to sell you is digital marketing advertisements on the website for the radio show. So, like you said, I think it's unavoidable. That's what's bringing so many people in, because you just can't ignore it if you run any kind of business nowadays.
Absolutely.
So let's start with Facebook. So what are your thoughts on Facebook as a good advertising platform?
Facebook's a fabulous platform. We do a lot of advertising on Facebook. We do for ourselves as well as for clients. And Facebook's getting more and more powerful. Facebook has this really powerful algorithm where, and that's the other thing that's so different about digital marketing, is the ability to track the results. And so Facebook can actually tell who on Facebook is responding to your ads, and then the algorithm will show your ads more to the people that are more likely to respond to your ads. And so as time goes on, your ads get better and better, and Facebook gets better and better at showing them to the right people. It's totally different than sort of anything we've ever seen before.
Yeah, and it really is the congregation of data. It's interesting because we have a pretty successful group on Facebook, and they have group insights, which maybe I never saw before. But it's really crazy of how deep they dig, with who's posting, how often they're posting, how many people you have into the group. I mean, it's astonishing how much data they gather and how well they comb through that data to create a platform that makes it pretty easy for even novices to get in and promote and advertise their business.
Yeah, and I think part of what we have to do is, as we move forward in digital marketing, is understand what is your job as the sort of the marketer or the business owner, and what is the job of the sort of artificial intelligence. So, on Facebook as an example, you can go in and target things very specifically. You could say, show my ad only to people who have homes of this value and are this age and have this kind of degree and all kinds of really specific things. And that's what used to work on Facebook a number of years ago. But now the best strategy with Facebook is to let Facebook decide who to show it to, let their artificial intelligence decide who to show it to, and give it a wider audience. But you focus on creating the advertisement, creating a really great product or service, doing the things that you can do, and then let the artificial intelligence do the things it can do, which in this case is finding the right people to show it to. It's an interesting kind of thing.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is going to change a lot in the digital landscape. Joe, where do you think it's going? I mean, Facebook, I'd heard last year, this year, that they were going to pretty much reach max capacity for timeline ads. And, us as a company, we just got our first notice that we're capped out on the amount of ads we can have on Facebook. We have to actually limit now and restrict the amount of ads that we have out. So where do you see this going? I mean, what are some of the future trends that you see with Facebook advertising?
I think that is something I've heard more and more, that they've sort of run out of extra inventory, and so that's driving up the costs, certainly. I think the biggest thing is that it's requiring more and more sort of marketing skill and marketing sophistication to get something that works well.
Right.
And so I think it's almost part of it is that it used to be the kind of thing where anybody could just go on Facebook, spend a small amount of money and run something and get some results, and it's becoming more and more the kind of thing where you really need to know what you're doing, and you need to have some extra money to be able to put into testing and making sure it's done right. So I don't see it as being some sort of Facebook Armageddon, that it's not going to work a year from now. I think it's just requiring more sophistication and more capital.
Well, and one of the things, that I know that they've been looking at for over a year, for example, is, letting you run ads in groups. They've obviously had a big movement towards Facebook Messenger and trying to get people more engaged with Messenger. So that looks like a potential to run ads. I mean, do you see that? Do you see that, there's a potential that they may start opening up more areas that like groups and Messenger that aren't really open now for advertising for you to start being able to run ads in?
Absolutely. I think I have heard the groups one. They've already been doing that. They got Instagram, and so now you can also run on Instagram, and they have the audience network where you can run ads on some other sites. And so yeah, I think they're definitely looking for more places like that. The thing that I would caution people on though is, despite all of that, what we've found is most effective is still sort of the plain vanilla and image ad on the news feed and keeping it really simple and just testing a lot of options on there rather than trying to try some of the fancier stuff.
Sure.
So, I think that I do think they're going to work on that and they're coming out with more features. But I think the most successful way for us to market is to let's be focused and let's not get sort of shiny object syndromed away from just doing what's been proven to work and continuing to do that.
Makes sense. One of the things that seems like it works really well with Facebook, Google, a lot of these guys is retargeting. So how do you feel about retargeting?
Retargeting is a no-brainer. I mean, I feel like I don't know if I've ever seen retargeting not work, not be profitable. It's just a matter of how much of it, you can't do very much of it. So
right.
On Facebook, it's absolutely critical. And that's part of the strategy that we've moved towards more and more is having ads that are more article-like and informational, and then also having retargeting ads that maybe are more direct. So I'm working with a construction company on their Facebook advertising, and so we have some ads that are just sort of these articles like 7 reasons to use this sort of siding and just things like that are informational, that are the kind of things somebody would share on Facebook. But then when somebody clicks on that, they're going to be retargeted and hit with more direct ads that are more like, request pricing today kind
Sure.
of ads.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a great strategy because that seems like what people want. When you try to just sell in a news feed without giving some goodwill, I would imagine that probably doesn't work out very well.
Yeah, and that's what Facebook wants to see. They want their users to have a good experience too. So if you have an ad like that that's informational, that people are interested in, you get a higher relevance score,
Sure.
which translates into a lower cost per click because that's what that's what Facebook wants to see. So that's part of it is, you used to be able to just blast them with really direct ads because Facebook didn't care because they had so much extra inventory. Now they're being more picky about, we're going to only give the impressions and lower the cost per click for the ads that we really like, that the people on Facebook seem to really like.
Yeah, and that's why it pays to work with an expert, because Facebook has, and what I've learned in time is when you're trying to manage it yourself, it's not you set it and it goes on autopilot. You have to constantly be working with, improving, changing things because they don't want that same content run to the same people over and over. Your results will just plummet. So, like we've said, I mean, it just makes sense to work with somebody that knows what's going on. Besides retargeting, these type of things, what other kind of trends are you kind of finding in social media or strategies that you see are working really well right now?
That's a good question. I think one piece of it is that we're seeing more and more that authenticity is important. So I think more and more people really want to see authenticity. So, it used to be that testimonials were great. Now, real reviews from real customers where maybe even some of them aren't great reviews, but they can tell that it's authentic, seems to be beneficial.
Interesting.
It used to be that, some video that was very well produced and, professionally shot and stuff was effective. More and more we're seeing some video shot on an iPhone where you can see somebody's, that they're a real person and have more authenticity to it is being more effective. So I think people are more and more, they're hungry for authenticity. So it's an interesting trend.
Do you think that's why live videos become so popular?
I think that's exactly right. It's live, it's rough, it's happening now. I think people want to see that because it makes sense. It's so easy on the internet to not tell the truth or to not be authentic or that kind of thing that people really want more. They want to know that it's real.
Yeah. Well, what about Google? Shifting kind of over from Facebook to, one of the other probably biggest platforms out there, Google. Do you guys do a lot with AdWords, and what kind of strategies are you finding effective in that area?
We still do a lot of Google AdWords, just search where somebody's searching on Google and you show an ad to them. I think that's some people sort of discount that, but that's still one of the most powerful opportunities out there because the one difference between that and Facebook is Facebook can find the right people, the people who fit the right profile, but Facebook, can't find the people who are interested in buying tonight.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
And so if you have certain kinds of products or services where somebody be searching for them, AdWords might be a place to go. And again, we've kept that super simple also. They have all kinds of different ads and shopping cart ads and all kinds of different things going on in Google AdWords. We just do basic text ads when people search, and the biggest sort of tip I would have for Google AdWords is that with AdWords you're paying when somebody actually clicks on the ad. So what you want to do, you actually want to write an ad that stops people from clicking on it. So I'm always thinking when I'm writing an ad for AdWords, what could I put in this ad that would stop the wrong people from clicking on it? So that might be putting a starting price in the ad so somebody that wants something cheaper than that doesn't click on it. Or if I'm working with a roofing contractor, I've had times where we were working with commercial roofing contractors, we actually put a starting square footage in the ad so the people who had smaller buildings didn't click, so we weren't spending the money on those clicks.
Yeah, and then that's a really interesting strategy because like you said, you're paying per click. So, but this is what normal business owners that don't have professionals in their corner don't get, right? I mean, exclusion is not something that they welcome because they're afraid they're going to push back or repel the people they do want. But what you're saying is you really need to focus on creating an ad that attracts the people you do want while repelling the people you don't.
Exactly, and it's because it's one of the only mediums where you're paying only for the clicks, right? Yeah. If you're doing a billboard, you just want everybody to look at that billboard because it doesn't cost you anything different.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What about people that are just getting started? I mean, what are some strategies that you found that someone that's, kind of new to either business or digital marketing can do to kind of get their first clients, which is the better ways for them to go?
Well, if somebody's just starting out, don't have a whole lot of capital, that kind of thing, I, in some cases, wouldn't even recommend paid digital marketing. When I'm working with freelancers and agency owners just starting out, I recommend unpaid sort of direct prospecting strategies like direct email, where you're just reaching out to people via email, or prospecting on LinkedIn as a way to get started and to test things out before you move to paid advertising.
How do you feel about LinkedIn? How do you feel things have taken the turn since Microsoft took over and bought them?
Well, I think some of the recent changes are really great for people who want to do prospecting. They now have something called Sales Navigator, where you can upgrade this to the sort of Sales Navigator level. Maybe it's $50 a month or something. But you can go in there and actually create lead lists where I could search for give me all the construction companies in this state and then actually build a list that's saved in there of those leads and then systematically go through and contact them and things like that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, more so than there used to be, for just prospecting on LinkedIn as a result of some of these recent changes.
What do you think? Have you messed with any advertising on there and recently to see how they've kind of progressed in that area?
I have not. I know that they added something very similar to Facebook news feed to try to get similar ads there.
Yeah, I see that.
I've not done any LinkedIn advertising at all. I actually talked to somebody a couple weeks ago on a podcast that it was the first time I talked to somebody that was successfully using LinkedIn, and they had that most of their business was using that as advertising. So I've not done it. That's the first time I heard somebody say that it's really working well for them.
Well, it is interesting because it looks like their strategy literally is just to copy Facebook. If you go on LinkedIn recently, like that's what it looks like. Their news feed looks exactly the same. The way they place advertisements and things in the news feed, exactly, which I don't blame them. I mean, Facebook has proven the model to be successful. But it's interesting to watch this and see, because I've never had success advertising on LinkedIn, but it looks like with recent changes that this could be, a formidable place to market if you're B2B here in the near future.
Yeah, it does seem like it could be really good. I think it's a matter of taking some time to focus on it.
What about key metrics? I mean, when you're advertising, marketing, helping people get the most return on their investment, what are some of the key metrics or numbers that you find that people really should be tracking but oftentimes aren't?
Well, I think the first thing is that people need to get really clear that return on investment is the only thing that matters. I think there's a sort of too much obsession with cost per click. Like, where can I go to get really cheap clicks? And cheap clicks aren't necessarily good clicks. If we go and do Google AdWords, we have some insane cost per clicks. We might have $25 clicks on AdWords, which people would think is crazy. But if those people end up buying and they buy a $10,000 website, that sounds great. So we have to make sure that we're not getting too caught up in anything except for return on investment. But once we know that, then I think the key thing is just to track all the different steps. Cost per click, landing page conversion rate, maybe if you're doing sales over the phone, what percentage of those sales calls, those consultations convert, just to track it all so that 6 months from now we can see, has anything changed, is anything broken down? But I don't think there's any rule of thumb. It's just a matter of, does it come out profitable on the other end?
Sure. Yeah, so ROI, your return on investment is what really, really, really matters most, because like you said, if you're narrowing it down the way that you are, your cost per click can be higher, but it doesn't really matter if your conversion rate with those leads is higher as well.
Yeah, and I think some people just don't think about that, or they think if I get a bunch of cheap clicks. And what have you found even on Facebook? If you do a bunch of tests on Facebook, you'll have different cost per clicks on different ads. We found that some of the best performing ads don't have the lowest cost per click, but those people end up being the right ones that actually buy. So you always have to be making sure you're looking at what really matters, which is the ROI.
Sure, makes sense. Well, what other mistakes do you think that people make? I mean, in your world, you take people from failure to success. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that people are making out there in the digital marketing world?
One of the biggest ones is just not realizing how long it's going to take or not doing enough of it. So, I'll see people go on Facebook, spend $50 and not get anything and be sort of surprised and declare that Facebook doesn't work. I think you really need to do them for an extended period of time, whether it's, if it's AdWords or it's Facebook. You need to plan on spending for a couple months and testing and optimizing and trying to see what happens before you're going to actually really see what the results are. Because part of the difficulty is that, especially if you're selling a relatively high dollar service like web design, where it could be $5,000, $10,000, it could be even more than that for a project. If you spend a couple $100 and you don't get anything, that's not enough money to have any idea, because you could spend $2,000 and get one $10,000 client, and it would be worth it. So I think that's probably the biggest mistake I see, is people just not giving it a long enough, giving it enough of a shot. And so I would encourage people not to start any digital marketing unless you have the capital to sort of be comfortable doing it for a couple months.
Yeah, and when you talk about that, you mentioned we kind of revert back to websites. Should that be one of the first things that people focus their efforts on, is creating and having a good website before they even start doing the advertising and marketing aspect?
I think it's funny, for most industries, I would say that yes, that is the answer. You got to get that up, because the website is sort of your hub. That's the step one, high quality website. People can get in touch with you. They can get the information they need. Your business looks legitimate and everything. What I see with web designers is sort of the opposite, where web designers sometimes are so focused on their website, they redesign their own website every 2 months, and they're obsessed over it, and they need to go out and start doing some marketing and forget about their website for a little while.
Yeah, so it can be a distraction.
Yeah, but that's not the case for most people in most other industries.
Yeah, I mean, we just redid ours months ago, and I don't want anything to do with it for years, right? Because I mean, it's normal, but it's a big task to overhaul a whole website. What are some of the things that you think are most important that need to be on a website?
I think the biggest question is to ask yourself, which I always ask people when I meet with them, is what's the main thing you're trying to accomplish? What's the main thing you're trying to get visitors to do? So is that you want them to call for a free quote? Is that you want them to schedule a consultation? Is that you want them to buy some particular product? Start with that in mind and then go from there. I think a lot of people build sites that they look nice, so they have a bunch of sort of random information, but the whole website is not focused on getting people to take that one particular action you want them to take. So that's, I think, the starting point.
Yeah, I like that. You start with the end goal in mind. So if your goal is just to capture somebody's email, then you put a great opt-in offer right front and center, right? Or if it's a consultation, you do the same thing. What type of things should somebody have on there for SEO purposes?
I'm pretty sort of more basic than some people in terms of SEO. I think the 80-20 of that is making sure you have your title tags, which are sort of the title that shows up at the top of the browser tab, making sure you have good keywords in there, making sure you have headlines that have keywords in them, making sure you have good content on there. Google wants to see paragraphs of good content rather than, a page that just has one sentence or just has some pictures on it. Those are probably the 80-20 of sort of on-page SEO. But the other piece is that we always have to come back to what are we trying to accomplish. So I think a lot of people approach the web presence stuff sometimes with a what should we be doing rather than what are we trying to accomplish and how are we going to do that. Like, if your focus is digital marketing, you're going to spend a bunch of Facebook ads is going to be profitable for you, then maybe it doesn't matter that much what you do with SEO. But maybe you want to really focus on SEO and get to the top of Google for all these different terms, and that's your main strategy. I'd rather you choose one thing, really focus on that, make that profitable, than sort of check all the boxes to make sure you're doing everything, but not really go deep or do a really good job with anything.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. How do you think it's working with Google? I mean, they've come up with so many changes in the last year. Is it still even possible for your average person to get to first page of Google with a lot of keywords, or do they really just need to work with somebody that understands the ins and outs of SEO at a deeper level than a normal business owner does?
It's definitely, they are definitely making it harder and harder. And it's very much the case that if you want to show up on Google in the short term and you want to get your phone ringing in the short term, the way to do that is AdWords and actually paid search ads as opposed to search engine optimization. SEO and showing up on Google via organically is purely a long-term play. Nobody should think about that as a short-term play. But it can still be done. If you know what you're doing, you can still do a pretty good job at showing up at the top eventually. It just takes some time. So that's the biggest thing, just not to... I think that's where people make the biggest mistake with SEO is thinking it's going to be a short-term play. I mean, you can't call somebody, a search engine optimization expert up today and have your phone ring in a month from now. That's just not how it works. But we can get your ads up on Google or your ads up on Facebook tomorrow and have your phone ringing tomorrow. But that's not going to happen with SEO.
Do the ads on Facebook and Google, does that help you expedite the time that it takes to move up the rankings with SEO because of the increased amount of visitors to the website?
If you were sending the visitors to the website, it would. But in reality, that's not where you should be sending the people to click on your ads. When you do an ad on Google or Facebook, you really should be taking people to a specialized landing page, which is basically just a specialized one-page website that's exactly what that ad says. So, your website has all kinds of different services and all kinds of different things on it. If somebody searches on Google for one particular service, you want to take them to a landing page just about that service where the only thing they can do is call or fill out a form and there's not a bunch of other pages for them to see. So sort of, yes, if you sent people to your website, it would help a little bit, but that's not what you should be doing with the ads.
When it comes to websites, in a day where we've got Squarespace, all these other services out there that are kind of drag and drop, does it still make sense? I mean, in your world, do you still see people that are paying the money for more expensive websites? And if so, what's the benefit in doing so?
There's lots of people out there that still are, and sometimes I have a hard time convincing web designers that that's the case. And the thing is that I think the biggest piece is that there's still lots of business owners that they don't have time to be dealing with that, and they would rather pay an expert to get it done right.
Right.
And when I'm talking to freelancers, I feel like the issue there is a lot of people. I think that if you're maybe a freelancer, if you've never sort of had a surplus of money and you've always sort of struggled financially, you sort of forget that there's all these people out there where they have more money than they have time, and money is not their biggest concern. And so there's all these business owners that it's more important to them that they get the leads or they get their business issues solved than how much it costs. And I think sometimes freelancers don't realize those people are out there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And that's something I always say is that, in business, something has to be more important. It's either time or it's money. You're either going to dedicate the money to get an expert to come in and help you and save yourself a ton of time and get faster results, or you're going to sacrifice your time, save the money, and it takes substantially longer to get results that are significantly less than what you would have got if you paid an expert to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to, and that makes a lot of sense when it comes to websites, because I know we had ours designed from scratch. We don't use one of these other platforms. Do you see that, a customized website, what kind of results it produces compared to one that's maybe one of the ones using like a Squarespace type service?
I think that it depends if it's built right. I think the big thing is, when it was built, did we ask this question, what are we trying to accomplish? And did we really design that website for that purpose?
Sure.
And what I've seen, to give you some idea of a metric, is if we build a website that's really optimized for conversion. For instance, I worked with a manufacturing company that the main thing they wanted was requests for proposal, where people would fill out this form, upload their schematics and things, and they could send them a proposal to manufacture their thing. And their previous website was built with some sort of a builder. It was very basic. It didn't even have sort of a contact form on it. There was just a phone number and an email address. It was pretty poor. We built a website where everything was focused on getting people to fill out that request for proposal form. It was front and center on the homepage. It was on all the pages. They could just upload their schematics, click on a button to upload them. It was super, super simple. And they started seeing an increase in the number of people doing that almost immediately. And I think that was about a 10% increase in conversion rate, which is, it's one of those ones. It's either a 10% increase or a 10,000% increase. It went from 1% of visitors actually filling it out to 10% of visitors filling it out.
Wow.
But the bottom line is that you can see that kind of increase if you build a website that's actually focused on getting people to take that action and is optimized for that.
Yeah.
It's a 10 times increase is probably the best way to say it.
Now, you've mentioned freelancers and contractors several times. You work with a lot of virtual team members. So what do you think? What are some strategies to find and hire the right type of virtual contractors?
Well, I think the first thing is that you have to get really clear about what they're going to do. I think one of the biggest hiring mistakes that I see, especially if you're hiring a contractor or somebody virtual, is not having a really clear picture of what they're going to do. So many people that I work with, freelancers will tell me, like freelancers that I'm training will tell me, I try to get contractors and they always need so much direction and they're so difficult to work with and all this stuff. But really what's happening is that the freelancer, they're not clear about what they're doing, and they're expecting that contractor they hired to build a WordPress website the next day and a Shopify website the next day and then do some custom program thing the next day, and it's all over the map. So you have to get really clear about this particular role in the business or this particular phase of the project. That's what I'm getting somebody to do. So they're doing the same thing over and over again, or it's very clear what they're doing. That's step one.
That makes sense. Do you think the instructions are better written, video? What do you think is the best way to explain the job that they want done?
I think video can work well, text can work well. I think it's more important that you make it clear what the outcome is, and you bring some people in and see if they can get that outcome. I'm very big into hiring some contractors fast and giving them a task and seeing how it goes, rather than spending a ton of time coming up with the perfect process, spending a ton of time coming up with the perfect person. I'm more into, let's get a couple people in, give them a small task, see if it works out, and then go from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. A good test task to make sure that they can get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And if somebody's good, they're, because just like we talked about with ROI, I'm about did they get the result rather than did they follow my exact process? Because if they're really an expert, they might have a better process than I would come up with.
Yeah, makes sense. And that's what you hope, right? I mean, that's what we found with we're working with people is that if somebody's sole task is to do one job, then they should be able to do it better than the person that's multitasking doing that job amongst other things.
Exactly.
So, as we wrap up, Joe, any parting advice for all these people out there that are kind of still trying to get into digital marketing, learn their way? I mean, what's some of your best advice?
I think my advice would be to start with just one thing. Pick what makes the most sense. If you don't have much capital at all, that's probably just direct email or prospecting on LinkedIn for now. If you do have some capital, then figure out, does Facebook make more sense, or does Google AdWords search make more sense based on who you're targeting, what you're offering? And then just focus on that one thing and really focus on getting that one thing working. Because if you can get one of them working, you can scale it up and have a ton of success. But if you're trying to do a bunch of different things, you probably won't get anything working.
I love it. Joe, where can everybody go listening to get in touch with you, to learn more? If they're an agency that's interested in getting some mentoring, or if they're looking to get in to be an agency, or just somebody that's just looking for all around, services that can help them be better at digital marketing, where should they go to learn more?
Absolutely. So if you're a freelancer or an agency owner, you can go to joekasherba.com. We have a 90-minute training that we do periodically. You can do that for free. And if you're interested in done-for-you digital marketing services or web design services, you can go to kasherbawebdesign.com.
Okay, perfect. So everybody listening, that's joekasherba.com. That's JoeKasherba.com. And that's also kasherbawebdesign.com, which is KASHURBA webdesign.com. And I'll make sure both of those are on the show resources page. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today, man. We talked about Facebook, we talked about Google, we talked about contractors and LinkedIn and so many great things. So I really appreciate you coming on and openly sharing. And there was a ton of value that you shared with us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
All right, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you go to joekasherba.com. If you're looking more into the website, web design, and again, agency, there's a couple sites you should check out depending on if you're kind of looking on the agency route or not. So check them both out, kasherbawebdesign.com and joekasherba.com. Both of those will be on the show resources page, as well as a link to Joe's Facebook page. So thanks everybody very much for tuning in. Remember, this doesn't do anything unless you take action. So there's a lot of great stuff that I found on Joe's website, and there's a lot of great lessons you can learn just by seeing a really well-designed website like he has. So make sure you visit both joekasherba.com and kasherbawebdesign.com. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Business Credit and Financing Show with your host, Ty Crandall. Watch for our next episode to get even more insight on financing and growing your business. And don't forget to check us out online at creditsuite.com for even more business growth strategies.